Hi, I'm Braddock District Supervisor James Walkinshaw. Thanks for tuning in to Braddock Voices, where we talk to Braddock District and Fairfax County residents and leaders who are working to make our wonderful community even better. To stay up to date with future episodes, community news, and local events, you can sign up for our Braddock District email list. Just email us, braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov, and we'll sign you up. And before we introduce our incredible guest today, I will give our animal spotlight for the day. This is an animal who is available for adoption at the Fairfax County Animal Shelter. And today I am happy to introduce Van Gogh the guinea pig. This is our first guinea pig that we've had featured on the show. Van Gogh is a 6-month-old brown-coated guinea pig looking for a new family. He's hoping that his next family will give him lots of space to run around and play and plenty of tasty and nutritious food. Van Gogh arrived at the animal shelter with 2 other guinea pigs, and they can be adopted together, or he could be adopted solo if you want to devote your time and attention just to Van Gogh. If you would like to meet Van Gogh, you can call the animal shelter at 703-830-1100. If Van Gogh has found a new home by the time you call, don't worry. The animal shelter can still help you find your future best friend. And with that, I want to introduce today's guest, Fairfax County legend, Braddock District legend, Red Jenkins. Red Jenkins was the first basketball head coach at W.T. Woodson High School. During his 35 years, 1966 to 1997, he coached the Cavaliers to 538 victories and more than 20 district and other titles. More than 80 of the players Red coached went on to play college basketball, and 2 were selected as Parade and McDonald's All-Americans, including fellow Washington Metropolitan Basketball Hall of Fame member Tommy Amaker, who's now the head coach, Harvard University. Red also coached, I don't think he was an All-American, but current State Senator Dave Marsden was correct. A player for Red at Woodson. Alongside his basketball efforts, Red also ran for Braddock District Supervisor. And if he had won, maybe he'd still be in the job today, and I wouldn't be here doing this interview. He ran in 1991, and we reached out to Sharon Bulova before this episode, and she shared with us that she kind of underestimated you in that campaign, and everywhere she went, people already knew you and loved you. She pointed out that you're a strong family man who had great connections in the community, and you knew the names of all the kids in the neighborhoods based on your efforts coaching. So, Red Jenkins, thank you so much for joining us. And Red and I met when I was campaigning and knocking on doors, and I recognized his name, and I had heard his name before and knew of his incredible coaching career. And it was a perfect moment because I knocked on the door, and Red, you may or may not remember this, but you were in your tracksuit, your warm-ups, as if you had just come from coaching a game, and you were watching March Madness, I think, on TV. So true to form, true to character, when I knocked on Red's door, we had a great conversation about the community and the neighborhood. Red, I gave the very short version of your bio, but tell us about yourself. Walk us through your career at Woodson and your work here in Fairfax County.
Well, I've been in Fairfax County since 1948. I grew up in a small town in West Virginia, Beckley, West Virginia, in the coal mining regions. And my mother got remarried after World War II, and she located in Washington, D.C. And so I came here when I was 10 years old, spent a year and a half in D.C., loved it, loved being in the big city. But in 1948, my parents bought a duplex house for $11,000. Figure that, in a place called Jefferson Manor, a brand new community in Pendle, just a little bit north of Groveton. And I attended Groveton Elementary School for my 7th grade year, went on to Mount Vernon High School, was there 5 years, and 8th graders went to high school then. It was there were no middle schools. And then I went on to Shepherd College and played college basketball for 3 years. I left there and came to George Washington University to get my undergraduate and graduate degrees. So I've lived in Fairfax County. My wife and I were married in 1959. She was a Mount Vernon High School girl, and we lived in Springfield, and then started my teaching career at Annandale High School. I was there 3 years, 59 through 61, and then when Woodson opened up, it was going to be the largest high school in the county, and they had 35 applications for the head basketball job, and I was the only assistant coach from Annandale.
Okay.
But the principal, thank heaven, Emery Chesley, he wanted to hire a young guy that could grow with the program, and I fit that bill, and I had a lot of chances to go coach in college and a lot of chances to go to other high schools, namely South Lakes and Robinson, big schools, a better chance to win a state championship, but I chose to stay there, and it worked out real well. I've been very happy. Woodson was a great school, still is a great school, and I remember when I first started teaching, Fairfax County was just a fledgling school system. Arlington was in the top 5 school systems in the country, but within 5 to 10 years, Fairfax County grew quickly, added a lot of schools, and it became one of the top 10 school districts in the United States. So it's been a very great place to work. You know, the retirement's good. People ought to come to Fairfax County, whether or not in education or other jobs. It's a great place. The services for citizens are great. Just witnessed the COVID-19 response by the Fairfax County Health Department. I called one day and got an appointment 2 days later. And it's just, they've handled everything well. And it's sort of typical of Fairfax County. It's a great place to raise a family.
Great. So tell us about your career as head coach. What were some of the highlights for you over 33 years?
Well, I was at Woodson 35, but I was going to retire after 1997. I thought 35 years was enough. Let a young guy take the job and go on from there. But then the priest called me from Paul VI, and I thought he just wanted some advice on who to hire, but he wanted to hire me. So I went over there they had no money. Schools in D.C., DeMatha and Gonzaga, they have, $1 million in annuities to bring in kids and everything. We couldn't do that. We were like the Ivy League. If a kid had a need, the priest would help him, and it was a great situation. But coaching at Woodson was a special thing. The thing that about coaching in high school, which I chose to stay in high school, I had a great chance to go to University of Maryland with Lefty Driesell around 1979 or 80, and it would have been more money, but I had to transplant my family, and my kids went to Oakview Elementary, and they loved the school, and they said, "We don't want to move, Dad." So families first. So I decided I would stay in high school, and my mentor, a guy named Morgan Wooten from DeMatha, he told me, he said, "Don't do it." He said, "You're cut out to be a high school coach. That's where you have the biggest impact." And so I stayed. And the thing about coaching in high school is you're there to develop good people, good citizens, and if they can become good players, that's good too. But you're developing young people, and the thing that I'm most proud of is that the number of my kids who love the game and went on to play in college, and some went on to careers beyond playing in college as coaches and everything. And it's that's what you're there for, to see the young people grow, to see them develop, and to see where it takes them. And you can't believe how much impact a teacher or a coach has on a young person's life. A couple of years ago at Annandale, I was primarily a coach and a physical education teacher, but every now and then the principal would come short on his social studies, and he would say, "Red, I need you to go down and take 2 sociology classes." And I remember one of the big things I did in sociology class, I required that the kids read the Outlook section of the Washington Post every Sunday for discussion on Monday. And at the end of the year, I did something I thought was good, but it turned out to be not so good. I went around and asked all the kids what college they were going to go to and what jobs they were going to go on to. And I had one guy in class who said that he didn't go to college, he didn't like school, and that he would just be getting a job at Giant Food or somewhere. And I thought about that, and that's up to him. About 25 years later, I got a phone call and found out that the young man had eventually gone into service, got out, went to college, got 2 doctorate degrees, and he was head of the medical system for the state of Virginia.
Wow. Wow.
So, sometimes
The
you
Outlook section had an impact, maybe.
well,
Your assignment.
not on him at that time.
Yeah.
He just wasn't interested in school, but
Yeah.
he got interested.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me that he remembered, that's why he called me, remembered sociology class when he was so anti-degree oriented or education oriented. And in time, he woke up, and those are the kinds of stories that make your heart warm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good to see the kids go on. And right now, I'm not a big Facebook guy. I just I use my phone to check my stock market tips. But I've got over 3,000 friends.
Mm-hmm.
About 3,000, most of them are kids that I taught.
Yeah.
That stay in touch,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a wonderful thing, to realize that, that some people were listening while you
Yeah.
were talking.
Yeah.
Girls will call me and say, "Coach, I'm still doing a great job of parallel parking." That's my driver education class.
Yeah.
It's education working with young people is by far the best job that anybody could ever have.
Yeah.
If I had to do all over again, I wouldn't do anything differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really important point that you make in terms of, the impact that a caring adult, whether it's a coach or a teacher or counselor, can have on a kid, especially when maybe they're struggling or there's something going on in the home that's creating additional challenges for them. So having people who care and are invested in them and notice is really important. And in terms of your time as a coach, we could talk all day about the athletic success and the success on the court, but I want to go back to how you described it, your first priorities, which was developing good people and good citizens. What did you do as a coach? What did you try to instill on or around the basketball court that helped you develop those good people and good citizens?
Well, it starts with discipline. People want to be organized and disciplined in their habits. And the best place for that is a team or a classroom or whatever. You have to have control of the situation before you can impart the wisdom that you need to impart to the young people. So it all starts with discipline and organization. And when people are part of a team, the chemistry that's necessary to be successful, what it means is it's all give to the better prospects of the team, and not so much about me. I doesn't go very far, but me goes along. I mean, me doesn't go very far. I don't go very far, but together we can go a long way. And Mike Krzyzewski at Duke has a thing where he holds up 5 fingers and he says each one of those fingers is not as strong as it will be if you close all of them together and make a fist. Then you have real strength, and that's a good analogy, I think. Got
it. And without naming any names, obviously, can you think of a story or a kid who maybe started with you and was really struggling and hadn't found his or her way, and your work coaching or teaching really put them on a good track? I'm sure you have dozens and dozens or hundreds of stories like that. Anything that sticks out in your mind?
Well, our state senator David Marsden. Basketball is it's a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for the weak-hearted. And David's mother used to tell me, I've tried for 17 years to make him a gentle person, and you want to get him on the court and make a killer out of him. I said no, but when he's on the court, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
And David was a great kid to coach. He was about 6'4", and he was one of the early dunkers. And
Wow.
we were playing Annandale for the district championship one night, and he intercepted a ball at half court and took about 3 dribbles and dunked it with 2 hands. And it's just nice to see a kid. When he first came in, he was just a uncoordinated, tall, gangly kid, but he developed into the state high hurdles champion.
Yeah.
He became a good basketball player, got a full scholarship to Randolph-Macon to play for Paul Webb. He's a success story and typical of so many of the other guys.
Yeah.
He wasn't struggling, but he was struggling a little bit on the court and in his development. But he's a super guy, and he's pretty typical of a lot of kids. Chris Nockey, who does the color broadcast for the Maryland games, when his group came in as freshmen, they started out 0-5. And when they were seniors, they had developed to the point where, with a lot of hard work, they developed into a really good basketball team.
Yeah.
So it's that in high school, that's what it is. It's teaching. If you teach and relate, and you have good listeners, that's what one of the things we always stress. Got to be a good listener. You already know what you know, but you can learn so much from keeping your ears open. It's much better to listen than it is to talk. So there are a lot of things that go into making a successful team, and a lot of things that go into making a successful individual. And you don't treat all, everybody, a lot of people think you treat everybody on the team the same. You don't.
Right.
There might be the last guy on the team might need more help in terms of mentally than your best guy on the team. And your team only improves as quickly as the weakest link.
Yeah.
So you got to spend a little more time with some people than you spend with others. But it's very rewarding. And it's the best thing you can do is to see a kid that didn't have it all together when you started, but through working with you and being part of a team and having a responsibility to his teammates, sort of like somebody said about being in a foxhole with somebody or being at war with somebody. You don't really fight for your country, you fight for your buddies. I never stress that you got to do or die for Woodson High School. What we're trying to get them to do is be responsible to their teammates, be responsible to their team. That's the core of everything.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to let the team down.
Nope.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, you have witnessed both your time as a coach and teacher and since an incredible amount of change in Fairfax County. I mean, I'm just looking at, the dates that you were coaching at Woodson and the changes there over that tenure. I mean, even just from in terms of, diversity, racial issues, segregation issues, going all the way up through the 60s and into the 90s. Tell us about what was it like to witness that degree of change and be part of that degree of change?
Well, the best year, Woodson High School, Woodson High School opened in the fall of 1962. And Mr. Chesley and Bob Phipps had hired the staff, and we met at Green Acres Elementary School even before the last brick was laid. The school was built on 79 acres and cost $3.2 million to build. They had a renovation about 5 or 6 years ago. I know we had a big dedication at the 50th. To renovate the school and restructure some things, it was $87 million. That's how much things have changed from 1962 to 2000.
Yeah.
So, and the best year we ever had, and I'm a big diversity guy. The best year we ever had was in 1965. Fairfax County decided to integrate the schools fully.
Yeah.
Mr. Woodson wanted to graduate it and start kids in the first grade and on up, but the state mandated that we integrate.
Yeah.
And so they closed Luther Jackson High School, and a lot of the kids came to Woodson.
And just for the listeners, so Luther Jackson High School had historically been the school for African American children.
That's correct, in Fairfax County. And before Luther Jackson was built, just a few years before that, a kid who lived in Gum Springs down near Fort Belvoir was on a bus for 2 hours because they had to go all the way to Manassas, was the only regional high school.
Yeah.
So Fairfax County built Luther Jackson, and then they integrated. We integrated in 1965, only 100 years after Emancipation Proclamation. Seemed like we were a little late on that, but was the best year we ever had because we got about 150 students from Luther Jackson that lived in the Woodson area, which at that time was a huge area. We had 3,300 kids at that time, and we got 3 really good basketball players, Walter Hawkins, Skip Brandon, and Roland Holland, and their coach, George Felton, came over to work with me.
Oh.
and it was a beautiful year.
Yeah.
We had some problems starting out, and we had some bathroom battles, and there were some of the kids that didn't want the black kids there, and
Wow.
they voiced their opinions, and we tried to keep a lid on things.
Yeah.
I remember they told me that we had something like 30 plainclothes detectives for the first big pep rally because they thought that there would be a fight, but there wasn't.
Yeah. So you went from, just to put this into context, you went from coaching in 1964, an all-white team,
Correct,
to all of a sudden 1965, first practice of the season, first game of the season, you have an integrated team to coach.
yes.
Wow.
Well, I was ready for that because I spent a lot of time when I was in college playing on D.C. playgrounds, and a guy that just died, Elgin Baylor, who was one of the all-time greats. He used to play a lot at Turkey Thicket,
Yeah.
and we played with anybody on the playground that was there in D.C. But out here in Virginia, you couldn't do that if they didn't allow that. But in 1965, those players integrated into our team very quickly. But I had to treat them specially. And people used to say, oh, you treat those guys special. I say, yeah. After over 300 years of them being subjugated to some really bad treatment. And the kids, they were not well off. They were kids that did not come from affluence.
Yeah.
And so I used to get them and to make sure I could get them there because they hadn't really had the discipline at Luther Jackson. It was a whole new ball game for them. And so I would take them out to the old Coach Inn for dinner and make sure I kept them after school until game time.
Yeah.
And some people thought I treated them specially, but I did because they were different than the other kids. But they took us all the way to the state tournament. We played in the semifinals of the state. We had a great year, and the guidance director told me, he said, now what are you going to do with these guys? I said, I'm going to get them in college. And she said, Red, they don't have the grades to get into college, and if they did, they wouldn't stay a week because they were not good students. They hadn't been prepared. It was a whole much tougher situation at Woodson. But I got them into junior college in Kansas, and Roland Holland was a bright kid. He went to a college in Ohio and got his architecture degree. He's worked for Fairfax County for years. Is a very successful guy. But the other two guys both went to Kansas, to Chanute Junior College. One of them went on to Utah and got his degree there. And they named the court down at the center in Bailey's Crossroads in his name.
Okay.
And he passed away of cancer 3 or 4 years ago. And the other one, Skippy Brandon, went to Oral Roberts University, came within 12 hours of his degree, and then he ended up being a regional manager for Melco Shoe. So those kids came from very little and accomplished a lot with their lives, and tremendously satisfying to me to see them do that because no one gave them a chance. That's the thing I was talking about, treating kids differently.
Yeah.
They needed a lot more help than the other kids. The other kids, Woodson's in a fluid area.
Yeah.
It's always easy for those that have, but not so easy for those that haven't.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of
that
things.
That first integrated team, you mentioned that there were tensions and some of the white players weren't happy to have black teammates maybe initially. Was there a shift? Was there a moment? Obviously, probably everyone handled it differently, but at a certain point, did some of them who maybe were resistant initially accept that these are our teammates and they're like us in a lot of ways, or no? Is that not how it happened?
Well, there was never, to my knowledge, any resentment on our team. There was some resentment in the school, as I mentioned, and resented. But once we started playing basketball, the gym was packed every night, overflow, and they really grew to love the African American kids, especially Walter Hawkins. He became a favorite because he was a first team All-State player, and he made junior college All-American in Kansas. Was in the Olympic trials.
Wow.
He's maybe the best athlete ever in Northern Virginia. The Dallas Cowboys brought him to camp as a free agent, and they sent the scout up to see what his physical attributes were, and they took him to Jeb Stewart's track in tennis shoes and khaki pants, he ran a 4.45 40. So the Cowboys brought him to camp, and he was invited back to the regular camp after the rookie camp.
Wow.
But he wanted to play basketball, so he went across town, and he had signed a contract with the Dallas Chaparrals in the old ABA.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but he was the last guy cut because they had 11 no-cut contracts, so he wasn't able to make that team. But he came back here and made a career in Fairfax County as a county employee down at the Bailey's Community Center.
Mm-hmm. Great. So we're coming up close to the end of our time here. I want to ask you, based on your experience working with hundreds, maybe thousands of young people over the years, what is the advice you would give to a new coach or a new teacher? What should they think about in terms of having the greatest possible positive impact on those young people that they're working with?
Well, the young guy that coaches Woodson now, Doug Craig, is a good example. He's a very good teacher, and he really cares a lot. And that's, to me, the secret. If the young people know that you care, then everything you put into it will transfer to them, and they'll put a lot into it. But it amounts to accountability. The thing that I find a little bit difficult about today is that the parents want to have too much input. If their kid's not playing, they want to know, why is my kid not playing?
Mm-hmm.
And so the parents are kind of overprotective. I call them pinch hitters. If something goes wrong, they're eager to jump right in.
Yeah.
And the kids don't develop the independence.
Mm-hmm.
They don't develop the ability to fight their own battles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to see the parents take a little more of a back seat and depend on professionals.
Mm-hmm.
I know at Woodson, they've won a state championship since I left there, and they've done really well. And I think he holds the kids accountable.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be accountable to your teammates.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting the work in or you're not performing up to par, then you need to step it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And your parents can't help you do that.
Yeah.
It's a new ball game from when I coached.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have much interference because every year we had a couple kids that were getting full scholarships, and we figured out one time it's been over $2 million worth of scholarships that our kids got at those rates.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about over 50 kids getting Division I scholarship, and the average cost today, I mean, at today's prices, it's just unbelievable. It costs $60,000 to go to Georgetown or Duke.
Yeah.
So the parents were saving a lot of money, so they figured we had it going pretty good. They didn't want to tell me my business, and that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm not coaching today, because I like to run my own program, and fortunately, we had principals that allowed me to do that. If you don't have the support of the administration, it's very difficult to accomplish your goals. But fortunately at Woodson, we just had some super people like Bob Phipps and Emery Chesley and Bill Ladson and Dr. Wilson. I mean, and Dr. Miller. You go down through, we always had good principals who believed in the strength of athletics as being a great part of the strength of the school. And that's one thing I'd like to close with. One of the things we need in Fairfax County, James, is we need middle school athletics. Prince William County, Arlington County, D.C., everybody around Loudoun County, they all have middle school athletics, but we don't. As they say, it's not against it's against our educational philosophy, and that's bunk. It's about money. And the thing would pay for itself if you had soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and track in the spring. I've mentioned this to Megan McLaughlin, who's, as a matter of fact, her husband played for us in the early 80s. I've mentioned that to her, but it's not a priority right now. We've got too much on their plate right now with COVID and getting kids in school or not in school. But that's something we need to look at in the future, because it creates so much energy and enthusiasm in the school. And that's something the kids can rally around, take pride in.
And gives the kids that opportunity to be part of a team.
Absolutely. It's just as valuable as history class or English class or anything else, being part of a team.
And, I think it's particularly important, you talked about the kids that have a lot and the kids that don't. obviously a lot of kids in Fairfax County have families that can afford, to put them into private teams, whether it's a club, a travel soccer club, or an AAU basketball team. But for kids whose families, can't afford that, can't drive them around, having that school sports experience, very, very important. So I'm going to be with Megan tonight, so I'll put that in her ear for a post-COVID project. But we're running out of time. Final question I have for you. How's your bracket looking?
Well, I'm going to have 3 teams in the Final Four, but I missed on Illinois, and a lot of people missed on Illinois. I've got Michigan, I've got Baylor, and I've got Gonzaga. And it's going to be a dogfight at the top. Gonzaga is going to feel a little more pressure because of that undefeated record, and that's unfortunate. It doesn't seem to have bothered them so far, and they're very good, but Baylor's very good. Michigan's very good. So they're going to have their hands full.
Now, we are recording this on March 30th, and by the time it airs, the championship will have been decided. Do you want to make a prediction?
I think Gonzaga is just a touch above the other 2.
All right, you heard it here. Braddock District basketball legend Red Jenkins predicts Gonzaga. When you're listening to this, you'll be able to determine whether he was right. And I think next year, Red, I'm going to copy your bracket, and maybe I'll make some money for myself. Well, thank you. You've been an incredible guest. We really appreciate your time and your decades of service to Fairfax County and to the Braddock District. To the listeners, thank you for tuning in to Braddock Voices, where we talk to Braddock District and Fairfax County residents and leaders who are working to make our wonderful community even better. To stay up to date on future episodes, community news, and local events, sign up for our email list. Contact us at braddock@fairfaxcounty.gov, and we will subscribe you. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.